everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Discover E's 2021 Persist series, our monthly virtual speaker series connecting thousands of women across the world for uplifting conversations to help us thrive and persevere in engineering and technology careers. I am so thrilled to introduce you to today's inspiring speaker, Audrey Sherman, known as 3M's 100 Patent Woman. Audrey is a division scientist in 3M's Medical Solution Division. In its 116-year-old history, only 18 innovators have met the 100 patent mark. Audrey is the only woman to both meet and surpass it, currently holding 146 patents. How does she do it? Well, she learned that science is a team sport and has never shied away from a little friendly competition. Let's hear her story.
Hello everyone, I'm Audrey Sherman. I'm a division scientist at 3M Company in the Medical Solutions Division. In school, we had such interesting projects, and I noticed that science was really a group activity. And I realized that I really liked wondering how things worked. What were they made of? What could I do to change them? We all had ideas. We all could get together. We could all ask questions. And eventually all of us could figure out what the answers were. And I really liked that part of it as well, that it was very, very collaborative. It was fun to do. There wasn't so much a right answer as the process of finding the right answer, which really intrigued me a lot. In high school, I was introduced to a STEM program at 3M Company called STEP, the Science Training Encouragement Program, and a team of 3Mers stopped into my junior year chemistry class in the fall and said, hey, we have this program at 3M. We'd like students who are interested in science to sign up, and we will teach you, which was wonderful, and we'll have jobs at the end of the summer for you if you'd like to work in a real lab. And the gal who was there, a PhD scientist at the time, came up and said that she cooked polymers all day and drove a sports car. And when I heard that, I was just so excited in the room. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow, that is the coolest thing ever. I'm going to do that. I am going to cook polymers all day long and drive a sports car. Now, I didn't even have my driver's license at that time. I just knew this is what I'm going for. It turned out that I got into the program and went through the courses, and at the end of the summer ended up actually working for the same scientist. Becky was her name. Luckily, her home and my home were on the same path to 3M Company. And so I actually got to carpool with her every day in that sports car. And so even before I had my driver's license, wow, driving to work in a sports car was fabulous. And then, of course, I got into the fact that she played on the softball team at 3M after work. And she said, do you play softball? I said, yes, I do. She said, good. On Mondays, you need to bring your mitt and your uniform because we're not going directly home. We're going to the softball field. It was great. I got to meet way more women scientists doing an everyday thing, which was being part of a team and being part of a softball team. That was a lot of fun. And from there, it just grew and grew and grew. My second year back, now I had my sports car because I earned enough that summer to buy my own. So I was one of the few seniors in our parking lot that only had a 2-seater. It was unheard of. And they're like, wow, you really did it. And I kept putting my mind to it and putting my mind to it. And so my senior year back at the program, they said, we don't want you to be bored. You're repeating the program. Another female scientist said, and her name was Peggyetter, said, well, why don't you just come to my laboratory and we'll do a research project that I plan publishing. So by the time I graduated high school, I had a published science paper in a journal on solid state chemistry, which was fantastic. I could take that with me to college. The more I talked about how I wanted to become such a successful scientist, the more people started enabling and helping me through that pathway. And it just kept being more fun, collaborating. Out of my 148 patents, which is where I currently sit today, there's only 2 of those that are a single name, me. The rest of them are with groups of scientists, and that makes it really fun to play on a team and discovering all these answers in a group setting. My first patent is one of my favorites because my boss at the time, I made a suggestion and he told me, write that down, okay? Write it down in my technical notebook. And of course, that was one of those moments when that was the breakthrough that made everything possible. And I had written it down. There was evidence, and there I was, an inventor. 5 years later, when that patent issued, because they take time, I asked him, I said, wow, this is really cool. How many patents do you think you should have? And he was like, well, you should, 1 a year is a really good rate. And I was just like, wow, oh my gosh, I've been here 5 years. I only have 1. I'm really far behind. So at that time, I really decided that I need to speed up. And what I did is start to collaborate with people that were well-versed in intellectual property and patents. And what that means is I go up to these guys, and they really were guys at the time, that were very, very prolific inventors, and say, I can help you. Is there anything you need? How can I help you? They never turned down any help. And they themselves, being at the top and being inventors, actually knew that contributions counted, no matter how small. And so I never had to worry that when I came up with a suggestion, if it worked, I was included. I was right along with them. One of my bosses, as I was growing up in the company and developing, I became a team leader. And this particular team had myself and a whole bunch of guys on this team. And he spent a day with me after a few months and said, I love the work you're doing. I see the meeting minutes. You're making progress. You are really the leader of this team. But I want to share with you an experience that I think would help you. Now, he was African American, one of my best managers. And he said, you know, when I walk into the room, I'm African American. There's nothing I can do. Doesn't matter what I say, how I dress, what projects, anything. I am African American. When you walk into the room, you're a woman. Doesn't matter what you say, how you dress, what the projects you're working on, you're a woman. And I noticed that you are taking the meeting minutes and publishing the meeting minutes all the time for your team. And I want to tell you, here's what I want you to do. Next meeting, do not bring a pen or paper to this meeting. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. All those guys at the meeting, they're going to toss you pens and papers from across the table. It's okay. You can take the minutes, but just keep going. You need to delegate, and they're perfectly capable of doing this. You're the team leader. Doesn't mean you have to do this. So the very next meeting, I actually had to run back and drop back at my desk my pens and papers because I had them in my arms. And I walked into the meeting room a little late then, and we sat down and started discussing, and everyone was looking at me because I wasn't writing anything. I didn't have anything to write with. And they said, "Oh my gosh, we know you were late, but are you going to take the minutes?" And I said, "I don't have anything to write with." And it was true. Sheets of paper got torn out and pens got tossed to me. And I said, well, I guess I can, do it this time. Well, the very next meeting, which was about 3 weeks later, we met almost every month. I came, nothing, no pen, no paper. And everyone looking at me again saying, well, who's going to take the minutes? And I said, well, it doesn't have to be me. I don't have anything anyway. And all of a sudden, one of the guys volunteered. And from then on, this was in probably the year 2000, ladies, so we're talking 21 years now. I have never brought a pen or a paper or anything to take notes to a meeting since. This was a great learning experience from my boss at that time to say, don't fall into the expectations of everyone. You need to be yourself, and you need to be true to that. And you can't try and change some things about you. You need to be true to that. Later on, another boss said, boy, I don't know, there's all these guys that you deal with, and how do you put up with that competition all the time? And I told him the story. I said, it is kind of interesting. I think a lot of guys think that sometimes they can tell me something and they just expect that it's going to happen. And I said, what they don't realize is, look, I'm not married to them. I have no stake in how they feel about what I'm going to do at all. I'm not their wife, and I'm certainly not their daughter. And forget it, I'm done with trying to be everybody's mother. I don't even bring pen or paper to the meetings anymore. And he said, yeah, I've noticed that. What kind of relationship would you think you have with these guys that are on your team? And I said, oh, I'm their sister. And he looked up and he thought, wow, I've never thought of that before. Brothers and sisters, there's a lot of competition. And I said, I know, because Mom always likes you and not me. And he said, that's pretty powerful. So you're really in competition with these guys. I said, you bet we are. Now, I won't kill them because Mom and Dad will be really mad at me for that. But I'm going to come very, very close to it. They are definitely my big and little brothers. And I expect that they're going to take care of me just the same as I'm going to take care of them. And so that's the relationship that I work on professionally is we are all a family. There's competition, don't get me wrong, but we're not out there to mortally wound and kill each other either. Because you know what? In the end, that would really tick off Mom and Dad. So we got to get along, but there's going to be competition. So now at 3M, being a division scientist, I'm near the top. I'm not at the top yet, but I'm near the top of some of the scientists at our company. What we need to do for women and all the diversities, minorities, women, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, is when you're at the top, throw that rope down. You are up there to be able to pull everyone else up to the top with you and elevate them right where you are as well. It's not always an easy climb. The advice I would give to young women is to tell people that you're looking for the rope. There's a lot of people who may have seen one. They may not have been interested in it. But unless they know that you're interested in it, they may not point it out. So when I got to my summer job and sitting there in that classroom saying, I want to cook polymers all day, which is what I was learning to do, but I wanted to drive a sports car, I told everyone, I want to drive a sports car. And before I knew it, everybody, all the guys were bringing to me, hey, here's this one for sale. What do you think of this? What do you think of this? And that's how I drove back to senior year in a sports car, because I told everybody I'm interested in it. So my advice would be tell someone. In fact, not just tell someone, tell everyone, because you don't know who walked past your rope. Tell them about it, and you'll find more friends than you ever knew you had. Some of the skills that are needed for collaboration, they are the same skills that we use to gain friends. So we are honest with each other. We give each other credit when we need credit. We are able to pitch in when someone else can't pick up a task. So I've been known to go from something I don't know at all just because no one else knows it and jump in and say, I'm willing to learn it because it helps the group effort. Those are all great skills for collaboration. The other one for collaboration is being able to stand up for the person who isn't standing up for themselves as well. So when I tell you I have a lot of inventors on my patent, sometimes people come to me and they say, I don't think I invented anything here. And I am willing to say to them, are you kidding me? You said this. If you didn't say this, we would have never thought that direction. So you were critical. And a lot of people don't realize that it could be just one comment that takes our whole group in the right direction all of a sudden, and that pivot was very critical. I really want to pay back for all the gals and girls and women and mothers and daughters that really can turn this into a collaborative effort getting women into science. And we definitely deserve to be there. Nobody thinks like we do, and that creativity is something that science is in need of constantly. It's always good to be able to have somebody to bounce things off of that isn't directly involved in the group, so think of it as a safe area. And so I've been able to become a mentor to a lot of junior 3Mers. I have a lot of interns that work with me, my summer students through the same high school program. I mentor them. I still stay in touch with them. And then I also do programs beyond 3M, where I do mentoring of other young people that are just need that kind of a safe zone. I love working with the next generation. It's keeping me young. Over the years, it turned out to be a two-way street. A lot of my mentors told me, wow, I have learned things from you. And I said, yeah, but I'm the one learning from you. And they said, I know, it's kind of strange that this is working this both ways. Well, I thought it was just fabulous that it's working both ways. When I think of what we look like tomorrow, what the discovery opportunities are for young women, especially in tech, needing various viewpoints is so important. I mean, I can't imagine in the future that we don't have women and men perfectly side by side driving toward the same goal that is fully including everyone. You can't break your mind into someone else's mind. You need to draw from experiences. And when you're learning together, it's that blending of the experiences. You need to have all of those viewpoints together so that you can even understand where even the next generation needs to pick up as well. The opportunities are there. Break into them. Be the first one or be the 50th one. It doesn't matter because we need what you can contribute. That means you've got to be there for that. So I see that in the future. We're all just jumping in and grabbing what we can because it's there and we need them.
Get ready with your questions. We've got Audrey and her 3M colleague Belma joining us for a live Q&A session. Find that Q&A button on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen, and let's continue this conversation.
All right, that was so incredible. Thank you so much to both Audrey and Belma for joining us. My name is Vanessa Raquel Raponi, and I'm very excited to be your host here today. This is my third Discovery Persist series of the year, and I did another one last year, which is great as well. So please feel free to check out some of those past ones. Audrey, my goodness, I took so many notes during your chat. There was so many interesting takeaways. I learned a lot about sports cars, loved your softball references about, everything with science being a team sport, the teamwork, family, siblings, there's so much there, and we'll dive right into that. For the sake of everyone on the call, thank you so much for joining us. Also just want to quickly introduce Belma. So Belma Erdogan-Hogg is our Global Technical Learning Innovation Collaboration Manager at 3M. Belma, do you want to do a quick intro and then we can dive into some of the questions?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I have been participating in these sessions last couple of years, and I cannot imagine, like you, I have been taking a lot of notes. So when we had the chance to get Audrey to meet with you guys, I was so excited. I have been with my company about 15 years. I came right after my postdoc at University of Massachusetts Amherst, and I have my PhD in organic chemistry from Georgia Tech, and I'm originally from Turkey. I had a chance to work on multiple technology development and product development in 3M, and I crossed my path many times with Audrey, so I'm looking forward to our discussion.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that intro. Audrey, how are you feeling having watched that back again?
Oh, it's really good. It's just big smile stuck on, and I'm just like, yeah. I mean,
I love that.
Real.
Yes, no, it's incredible. 148 patents. That ain't no joke. That's incredible. And before we started the show, these two told me that they've been colleagues together for over 15 years, and they worked together in solar and optical for 5 years directly with each other, which is incredible. I'm glad to see that you're still so connected with each other, because I know that as someone early in my career as an engineer, it's nice to know that, the colleagues I'm making, I will stay connected with for a while. So let's dive in to some questions. First and foremost, I wanted to ask you, Audrey, about something you said that really resonated with me, which was about, it doesn't matter if you're the first one or the 50th one, just jump in. So could you expand on that a little bit? What does that really mean to you?
Yeah, so a lot of the, areas that I worked in throughout my career, they're still at that time. I mean, I've been at 3M 35 years, ladies. So there just wasn't a lot of women. I mean, the women weren't doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
They were doing the administrative or something like that. And so being able to be the first was just, it was okay. I mean, I had to go in there and just stand up and again, I made it feel like these guys were my brothers. And as soon as they were my brothers, I wasn't really too worried about them. I mean, you don't always like your brother, but sometimes you have a favorite brother and things like that. And that was all okay to me in my mind. And so being the first means don't be afraid to ask the question that you have, okay? Because first of all, they probably don't have it, but once it's said, you just can't ignore it. It's like once someone shows you that color of car, you're just like, you're seeing it all over the place, you know? So to get it out verbally, be the first, that's fine. Being the 50th is okay as well. It means you've seen it now, and it's an okay place for you to go and just be part of it. So it's just fine. It's a total team sport. There's no limit to the number of players in the game. And the more players, the more ideas.
I love
that.
that.
That is what, I mean, science is about questions. It's really not about answers, because we don't know the answers. We're going to get them, but it's about questions.
Yeah.
So if you don't have questions, you're never going to get answers. So it's about questions.
100%. And I think that's so valuable, you know, and when we talk about diversity, like I'm probably one of the first queer women of color in a lot of the things I'm doing, but there's maybe women before me, there's maybe people of color before me. It's those intersections have their own challenges, but it regardless if you're the first or the 50th, it's always of value.
Yep, totally.
All right, the questions are really flowing in, so let's dive in. It sounds like you've had some really good male allies throughout your career. Do you have any advice for men who are interested in being more supportive colleagues for women in STEM?
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I think that nobody would be worried about having a big brother. I mean, honestly, it's such a safety net. I mean, I tell a lot of the women when I was mentoring early on, you know, they say, "God, I'm really having trouble with this one guy." And I would say, "Oh, have you talked to him about where he grew up and his family?" And they were like, "Why? Why do I care?" I said, "Because you want to know if he has any sisters." First thing you want to know is, did he grow up in a family with all boys, or does he have some sisters, you know? And inevitably over the years, I would come back and forth and just keeping score, you know, those families, all guys, they're rough houses, you know. But the ones that, oh yeah, I grew up, I had 3 sisters, you know, or something like that. It's like, yeah, you glom onto that guy and he'll drag you in with the rest of them, you know,
He gets it.
he's your brother.
Yeah.
So I think it's that type of relationship would be really grateful, because you have a stake in it. You're willing to help, and yeah, it's still okay to have some competition. That's okay. We're not afraid of the competition.
Definitely.
But having an ally, it's your brother.
And Belma, do you find that this resonates throughout 3M, this kind of brother-sister relationship?
Absolutely.
Of we're in it together?
Absolutely. And I just want to make a comment on that. A couple of years ago, we have a very strong women's leadership forum in the company since 1974. Wow. Actually, it has been established. And a couple of years ago, they have, you know, just went through a whole new re-envisioning where they are going. And under that one, we have also founded a technical women's leadership forum with one of my colleagues in the company. And one portion of that, both initiative, is men as advocates. And we did start it as a men as allies. And what we have learned along the way is allyship is very almost like passive, that you're on the side and seeing it and observing. But we needed advocates. We needed somebody who is going to be talking on our behalf when we are not in that room. Somebody who is going to be, amplifying our voices. So allyship is like unbelievably important. And it's very interesting that, we name it, but it has been there along the way. As Audrey mentioned it, like especially in the, technical community in the company, you can call them, your brother, sister, uncle, father, figure. I mean, that everybody was there, but now I think we are doing it much more consciously. And
well, Belma, I think you nailed it about it's what's being said behind closed doors. And I think that more often, and statistically, men are in different rooms that we are not in. So as any male ally, just, being cognizant of who's in the room, who can you be supporting, who can you help get into that room, and just and even just these subtle comments, the feedback and advocacy, pointing out good work, giving credit where it's due, all these things are so invaluable. So I'm so glad there's men on the call looking to be more supportive.
But I mean, also, as Audrey mentioned, it's about the personal relationships, right?
Yeah.
Just like ask about it, like,
of course,
how's your day? How is the family? So it's we sometimes put those like barriers and boundaries around us that they're
remember, we're all people. We all have a story. We all just want to get to know each other at the end of the day.
All people.
Anne-Marie asked a question. We talk a lot about mentors in this program, and Audrey, you definitely called that out. Audrey and Belma, could you please expand on the types of mentors you've had in your careers and how you went about engaging with people?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of, so I put them in 3 classes. I have mentors that I just need to totally bounce stuff off of, and I have no idea where this is going. And I expand on those type as those are just your total safe friends. Okay. You can say anything to them and they're listening. And, once in a while they can tell you back a story. I have mentors that are in the management area because I realized in my career that even though I didn't want to be a manager, I needed to know how they thought. Okay. What do they think? How are they trained? They didn't go to school like I did. So I needed to have mentors who were managers who would actually give me that side of view. And then the mentors that were the senior scientists that, again, they never, ever turned down, I want to help you. They could say, how in the world could you even help me? And it was like, well, I guess that's what we have to figure out. I'm willing, okay? So you help me how I can help you. And the senior scientists, already had that reputation, whether they were in the room or not, right? And so that was great. I could even say, hey, I went and talked to so-and-so, and they're like, wow, you actually talked to them? Well, yeah, I asked how I could help, but yeah, so those 3 types: safe friends, managers, which were, I needed to learn from them. What do they think about? And when I'm talking to other managers, what are they thinking? Because they're trained that way. And then just those senior scientists were just fabulous. Somebody who had the rope.
I love that. That's so smart to think of it in different groups, because you do need feedback from multiple people. It's not always just going to be a single person. And what about you, Belma?
Well, again, along the line that what Audrey mentioned, when I look at the mentors that I have had along the way, sometimes, they assign you to meet with somebody. And it's really important to have that right chemistry. And sometimes it's not there, right? Doesn't matter what you do not have the same frequency. So, but still, like, be open and try to get something out of it, because they're willing to, give it. And more and more when I start mentoring, I learn a lot from my mentees as well. So it is a both way. So I always like, now I think when I meet with my mentors, like, what am I giving to that person? What that person is getting from me? And the other thing that I have realized is it's not time bound, right? Like, it's not like, okay, I'm going to do 6 months mentoring and then I'm done with you. It's not the case. Like, I know Audrey 15 years, and when I look at the company, for different reasons, I call different people, like, even after a year, I'm like, do you have like 30 minutes? I really need to bounce this, to you that I'm going through and I don't know how to handle it. Or can you give me an insight, like, how should I move forward in this challenge that I'm having? And people are amazing when you ask them their opinion and advice. As long as you're open to take them, right? And as long as you carry that relationship. So
well, and I think that's so important. If you're just connecting with people, individual people of different mentorship styles as you need them over the years, with something, I find it's helpful for me when students reach out and stuff, if they give me something more tangible instead of just generally, oh, can you mentor me? Like, oh, I'm having this problem. Do you have recommendations? Like, that's so much easier to respond to, I find. So,
and one thing that I want to add, like, we do think that, it's just a mentorship, but we need to keep in mind that that mentorship, if you nurture it correctly, and if you, like, really earn the trust of that person, you will never know if that person is going to be your advocate or sponsor.
Of course, 100%.
It's going to open doors.
Well, and even as Audrey said, you can learn from people who you're mentoring as well, and they keep you relevant and timely, up to date with what's going on. There's so many benefits.
Totally.
All right, we have a few more questions. So this one says, Audrey, wow, this is so inspiring. Thank you. I'm wondering, how did you feel when you decided to leave that notebook behind? Were you nervous? What advice would you give a woman who's really struggling with that idea, as she thinks she might get reprimanded by standing up for herself?
Yeah, so I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about how would you feel? I'll say I was lucky because my boss suggested it. Okay. So he was the one who said, leave it behind, don't take it. So I already, had this backup that if everybody went in and said, oh my gosh, she's not even taking notes anymore, I knew that he would be saying, well, just because you're team leader doesn't mean you take all the notes, or something like that. But I wouldn't have been afraid, because I would have also said, you know what, I would have went ahead and told them ahead of time. Just, it never says anywhere that team leader has to take all the notes.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't say that. That is not in the job description. So we're rotating it. It's not going to be me all the time. And so at that time, I was more worried about doing exactly what he said, having to run back and drop my stuff and get back in there, and try this suggestion. I mean, if it would not have worked, I probably would have went back there, and still done it. But it turned out that I felt like I had permission. And so that a lot of times just that feeling like you have permission is so hard. But that's where this mentor type of thing worked out. He could say, yeah, go ahead and try it. So it wasn't just me on my own. I had this mentor that was saying, yeah, this is what you should just try this.
Well, and I think it's the kind of thing that what I'm hearing is try to have some conversations behind closed doors, outside of the room too. So you're not just in the middle, like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. You're being strategic about it, and you're making sure that maybe you can even pull aside a colleague and be like, hey, this is the reason why I'm asking you to do this. Someone you trust, someone who you think can help you out. And I think there's different tactics to approach this.
Yeah, you can totally have it all set up beforehand, with your big brother in the meeting. Say, okay, next week I'm not bringing anything. Will you
I love it.
Stand up and say, I'm going to do it?
Candace asks, I have to know, what kind of car do you drive? Just curious if you've continued your love of sports cars, and you know, if you don't know the exact model or anything, that's okay. We're curious.
No. I right now I'm driving a super nice Lincoln
Ooh.
that you know, has been over 100 miles an hour. I will admit it now in the COVID.
Oh,
Once or twice I just had to see, oh my gosh, look, nobody here. Let's see. Yes. But I have my eye as soon as I am done hauling kids' stuff back and forth all over the place. I have grown kids, but they still, you know, want to buy furniture and things like that. As soon as I don't need that back end, I'm jumping into a two-seater again.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate the car enthusiasm. One question is from Lindsay. So two questions from Lindsay. What would you suggest for a woman who finds herself in a company that has a culture of like kind of fratricide? So it's you know, just very male dominated, very, very bro-y kind of culture. Do you recommend just kind of getting out as fast as possible, or is there another approach? And following up to that, do either of you find yourselves encouraging or discussing ways that your partners can support women and minorities in their workplaces as well? So two-parter. You can start with the.
I'll take the first one. Sure. In the culture of fratricide. I mean, it's really interesting. I had a situation where one of my bosses had hired his best friend, okay? And the two of them were totally, you know, inseparable and everything. And I actually didn't want to go in as a complainer. So, but I went in as not a complainer, but as a suggester. And so what I suggested to him was he has a great opportunity because his friend that he just brought in and I had the same background and the same experience and the same everything.
Right.
And you know, and he was agreeing because his friend was great, you know.
Right.
And I made it that he knew that this is cool. We're the same. Now, later on, it did not turn out that way. And I went to another boss and said, I didn't want to burn bridges. I said, if you asked me to join your group, I will. Okay. I'm not saying I'm leaving this guy. I'm saying if you ask me. And it turned out that the boss and his buddy later told me, we're so sorry. This other group wants you and you're going to have to go. And I was like, yay, silently, you know, boo, you know, oh, I don't want to leave you guys. But yes, I did. And I did leave them. The two of them, they still don't know that I went around and asked, you know, if you ask me, I won't say no. Okay. And so to do it kind of that way, the other two never had a clue. They said goodbye and we're so sorry to miss you, and so ended up still being friends. But I had to get out of that. And then finding and encouraging ways you can support other women and minorities in the workplace. Definitely, I do that. I talk to people about, like, even our inventions and say, you know, we're getting a lot of help over here, but you have to contribute to a claim, right? To be an inventor. And so thinking and going to the attorneys and saying, look, why don't we try to craft a claim that can be inclusive, okay, rather than the other way. And a lot of the attorneys were just like, wow, you know, I never thought of that. and so you can, discuss it to other people, why don't we be more inclusive and do this? And
Right.
I have never had anyone say, no, I want to be exclusive. So you just got to ask. You have to ask.
Well, and Lindsay gave us some follow-up that to specify that it's sometimes even a culture of people, every person for themselves sometimes. So even more so than that. So Belma, do you have any additional insight on something of that nature?
Well, what I can say is, like, as a scientist and engineers, we are very stubborn, right? We want to solve that problem, whether it is a technical problem, cultural problem, society, organization problem. We're like, how can they not see it? This is wrong, or this is not acceptable. I would say that, the current generation, the woman in workplace is much, much luckier than the previous ones, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
and I always feel like it is our duty to make it easier for the next generations that is coming after us.
Of course.
So I would say, like, question the organization, but show them some data, diversity in teams, diversity in the organization's management definitely brings more innovation and growth to those companies. When we approach the problems with the anger and, like, putting the blame and saying, like, how can you not see that you're doing it wrong, you put all those people into defense, and then they do not see the way you see it. But at the same time, you may need to put your stubbornness as a scientist and engineer aside, like Audrey said. And in my career, it did happen once or twice that I physically start feeling that I do not feel right in here. My work is not valued, and I can contribute it in somewhere else and really fulfill my and satisfy from my career. And then I move.
Definitely. Well, and I think that's exactly it. It's a matter of, putting in your best effort of speaking to individuals, speaking to HR, speaking to your manager, doing what you can do and is within your emotional capacity to handle of, these are the things I'd like to see change. This is how I'm feeling undervalued or underheard, or that I don't have problems with the way this culture is working. But then at some point you have to decide, is this actually what you want? And are you okay to continue on like this, or do you need to find a different company? Like, there's so many companies out there in the world, so many industries, like there really are. So hopefully,
I mean, and besides, changing your company, you can do a lot inside as well.
Of course.
Mentioned with our technical women's leadership forum, we have, identified challenges and just get together and we said, like, what can we do about it? Like, how can we really, put our heads together and solve this?
Definitely.
Because, I mean, sometimes moving away and just quitting is one thing, but looking at it and coming out with an idea how you can solve it is another one.
Definitely. No, I love that.
Definitely.
So Kay asks, how would you address a workplace where you aren't offered mentoring and you also are struggling to find someone to mentor you within the company?
That's a really good one. I had a chance when I moved into a new group, and I was out of a group that had great mentors. And my new group, nobody was doing it at all. And actually I learned a great lesson in this as well. So when at just a general group meeting, anybody had some questions at the end, Q&A, I said, yeah, is there an opportunity that we could get a mentoring program going? And what I got was, that's a great idea. You should do it.
Yeah. Always.
But what happened is, since management said I should do it, now there came that slight permission. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about how I can do this. Who else are you going to assign, to do this with me? And we got some, again, way senior scientists. Well, you need this and this and this. And, and I was like, this is really cool. So my team was all the people that manager appointed under me to create this mentoring program. And of course, did I get myself a mentor while I was creating the program? Yes, I made sure that, I was like, yeah, I want this guy. And they were saying, oh, he doesn't take on anybody. And I said, well, let's just ask, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, they said yes. And I was like, well, good, because if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yeah, definitely.
So
well,
it was, I created the program because, again, I didn't expect that they would say, no, we don't want to have a mentoring program. They probably just don't even know what they're missing.
Right. Definitely. And I think it's also one of those things that you don't feel limited to look within your company. There's loads of mentors. You could find someone with a similar title on LinkedIn or a job title you're aspiring to. You can come to things like this and meet people, and the sky is really the limit there, which is great. Okay, so we have a couple more questions. This one's pretty tricky, so we'll see who has some feedback. How do you feel, or have you ever been in a situation or have any recommendations of dealing with a female coworker who seems to be actively diminishing towards your own progress?
I'm going to laugh at that because we are our own worst enemies. When I say throw the rope down, I really mean throw the rope down, ladies, because that is such an attitude of I'm at the top and I'm never going to have any challenges to me, because why? Because you feel insecure, because what? Because who knows why? But you know what? That kind of attitude doesn't rise everyone. And if you don't rise everyone under you, guess what? You can't rise.
Yeah.
So, I definitely know about that attitude that we are our own worst enemies. And that part, we have to address one at a time and realize and notice when we're doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because it may be so subtle that you don't notice it.
Definitely.
So recognizing that we are our own worst enemies is the first thing. And second thing, there's so much to go around. You know what? We will never run out. There is always more to do than we can do.
Definitely.
So, take the
Alma,
help.
do you have any additional feedback on that?
Yeah, I just go back and refer to studies and data related with that one. And for this one as well, I mean, it is well published that how woman makes sometimes, the other woman's life a little bit harder, climbing up or getting into the workplace. And one of the reasons that they show it is because there's not that many on top, right? And is a notion that we think that because there's only 2 spots in there, we have to compete.
Right.
But there's not have to be 2 spots. There should be at least 10 spots up there out of 20. Yeah. So how can we make more women up there instead of just fighting for that 2 spots? I think when we realize that it is not going to be, how can I diminish you? It's going to turn into how can I lift you so we can both, go up to that level. And I, more and more when we create that awareness, I think it is going to change. Hopefully.
And I think it's a kill them with kindness kind of approach too. Like if you're seeing someone actively doing this, what can you do to go out of your way to bring that person up? And if you're being nice and helpful to them and they're just being, terrible to you, there again goes back to we're all just people at the end of the day. So if they're seeing that, it might facilitate some more conversations that you have. And if enough, again, this is where managers and HR stuff can get into if it's a really situation, but to always take the approach of what can I do? How can I talk to that person independently before I need to take those measures?
Yes.
But at the same
This
time,
one
I
is
do want to acknowledge the feeling too, though. Like you feel like you're betrayed because it's another woman. Like how can that? So I want to acknowledge that. But
yeah, of course, it's a terrible
Right.
situation to be
Yeah.
in. I agree. This one is probably something Audrey can answer very easily. From a legal perspective, when it comes to patents, it sometimes seems you can only issue patents under the name as an inventor. So how do you document legally a team member as opposed to the individual inventor?
Yeah, and so a lot of that has to do with two things. It has to do with definitely everybody, needs to document what portion they've done. Okay.
Right.
And it could be the smallest little suggestion, just get that documented. And then the second is we need to be able to advocate to the attorneys again, because they weren't there. They are
Right.
not there in the moment of who said what and who turned this knob the other way when it always goes this way, kind of thing. And even to the point of saying, we know this was the contribution, but we haven't written a claim to it yet. Can you just make one claim like that will pull them in?
Right.
And it's no problem for the attorneys to do that. It doesn't have to be a main claim. It can be one little silly dependent claim that says, oh, and by the way, the knob was between 2 and 4, and it worked. And it's like, well, yeah, that's where they put it, but all the other examples it's at 8, and say, just put it there, put the claim in.
I love it. That's great. That's very helpful, and appreciate as I said, you're kind of the perfect expert to consult on something like that.
And they ask you, again, Audrey was one of those people. I think women more than men maybe have the tendency of like, oh no, I didn't contribute it. I was just like, chatting with you guys. No, it was not. And I remember one of my conversation with her. She's like, you were there while we were brainstorming and coming out with how we are going to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, you were there.
Right.
You made this comment, and now it is part of the patent. So you are.
Yes. Don't dismiss it. Or, another really easy one is to just go, if there's somebody that you want to get involved, just go and talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have some idea.
Mm-hmm.
You give them credit for that idea, and then they're in.
I love it. Yeah, and it goes back to your collaboration you've been talking about from the beginning. You really valuing every member of the team, regardless of what their specific contribution was.
And it doesn't have to be a big or small contribution.
Of course, they're all important. All right, well, we're just about at time now. So I want to thank both of you so much and thank everyone in the audience. This has been a really wonderful video and journey together. And kind of just leaving with closing thoughts. I know on my end, I would encourage everyone to stay connected. I have a YouTube channel you can check out. I'll throw the link in the chat. There's lots of fun ways to stay connected online, and this doesn't have to be the last conversation. And please stay connected with the Discovery and Do Goodery team. Belma, do you have any closing remarks? Then we'll end off with Audrey.
I think, I'm just going to like point out the sign behind us. The power is really in you. While we are expecting a lot from outside, you can individually, inspire, and you can adapt and you can elevate. So not everything is going to come from outside. So it's really in you that you can take that power. And
I love that so much.
Yeah, wonderful, Belma. Because that is just so right on. Just being a mentor also requires good mentees. So the excitement, the honesty to just say, that's not where I'm going, or I'm struggling with here and there. It's just fabulous. And so, we're all looking for that rope, and you need to tell everyone. I just can't emphasize that enough. You need to tell everyone What do you think you want to be? Even meet the people that are that, and then you can decide, oh yeah, I don't really want to be that, it's over here. So it's not hard. Talk.
Yeah, that was definitely my biggest takeaway, was just speak out your goals, manifest them into reality. I love it.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I hope you both have a great day. And if you check out, there's some feedback that you can see at bit.ly/persist series. And we also have our next session on May 12th, which is also available at bit.ly/persist May 12th. So thank you all so much, and we wish you all the best. Have a great day.
Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Is it leave?